Hello and welcome. I'm going to be talking today about a phenomenon that many people seem to be experiencing lately in their ascension process that I've just called the Ascension Void. I've described this briefly in other audios and in my books on ascension, but because it's such an impactful part of the journey, it deserves to be described in a little more detail. But first, what I want to be clear about is that in calling this experience the Ascension Void, I'm not referring to the experience sometimes called the void that's been described in spiritual teachings as that spacious and blissful reality that appears to one who has awakened totally beyond ego identification. It's not that I'm talking about. This Ascension Void is a rather empty, in-between kind of space that exists between what your life has been so far and what it will eventually be. And it can be a very uncomfortable period at times, and sometimes even frightening if you're not aware of what it is, that it's an important part of the ascension process. You may actually feel like something is really wrong with you, when, in truth, you've simply reached a part of the path on your way into the fifth dimension that has been called, in former times, the dark night of the soul. It's really similar to that. So, exactly, what is this void like? Well, in general, you can know you've entered the Ascension Void when you start having some or maybe all of the following experiences. First, you're realizing that your life has become rather flat and boring, and yet you somehow feel a lack of motivation to try to create anything new for yourself. Nothing you can think of doing feels all that interesting or like it has any real meaning or value anymore. Somehow you just kind of feel finished, like you've come to the end of the road you've been on in your life, and you don't know where you're going anymore. You realize that you've lost your passion and interest in what your life has always been about. The roles you used to play in your life that were so important at one point either now bore you or they just don't exist anymore. You're in a state of limbo. Your life feels directionless. You feel kind of emptied out. And you don't even know what you want anymore. Maybe you've tried to re-stimulate your old passions and attempted to create situations or projects or relationships that really used to excite you, but you've discovered that they just don't do it for you anymore. There's no more juice left in them for you. And you feel totally empty of any sense of creativity. Now, in one way, this may feel like a serious bout of depression you're experiencing, if you're experiencing any of this kind of stuff. But somehow, that's not quite it. Yeah, you're somewhat despondent about all this. You feel bummed out about losing your passion and how boring your life has become to you. But you're familiar with depression, and this experience you're having isn't quite that. It's somehow bigger or deeper or more all-inclusive. Something inside you seems to be leaving or maybe even dying. But that's maybe a little dire sounding for what this is. But something's happening and you can't quite explain it. It just feels different from anything you've ever experienced before. But because you're feeling so weird with all this, you've just started withdrawing from your life in different ways. You may feel like you're not interested in seeing friends very much at this point, or family members. You're somehow not able to relate to many people at all anymore when you think about it. Perhaps you tend to get impatient with them or feel they really don't understand what you're experiencing, so you don't want to spend a lot of time with them. And you're not at all that interested in meeting new people either in the state you're in. And so, stripped of all your old comfortable ways of experiencing yourself, your life starts getting rather small. You find you just want to spend a lot of time at home alone. In essence, you've become confused as to who you are anymore. Without your usual interests or passions or roles or relationships that were once so important to you, there's an emptiness. You don't even know what you believe anymore. Your future may feel both blank and bleak. And so a deep sense of loneliness may appear, and at times, perhaps a profound despair. If you're experiencing any of this, it's important to understand that this Ascension Void period, as uncomfortable and frightening as it may be at times, is a natural and necessary passage in the Ascension process. And you're actually right on track on your path in moving toward the fifth dimension. If you're experiencing this, you're quite a ways along on it. And you're being brought into this empty space so that you have the opportunity to let go of all 3D ego-directed aspects of your life and to discover the new and deeper 5D self that you can eventually live your life from. It's in the void that you have an opportunity to release the past and open to a new you that's wanting to be birthed. It's a time when deep healing can take place, and also a time for integrating new and healthier patterns into how you live your life. Without all the usual outer distractions you've had before, all this can happen more rapidly and more effectively. In essence, what you're doing is letting go of your third dimensional consciousness and all the interests and passions you've had within that level of consciousness. You're being prepared to enter higher dimensions in which new interests and passions may arise. Or the old ones may re-emerge at some point, but you'll be expressing them from a much higher consciousness without any of your old ego agendas. Now, experiences in the void are different for everyone. We're all unique. But generally, they involve a type of letting go, a releasing of large pieces of ego identification, parts of yourself that no longer match the reality you're now living in, activities that no longer serve you, and relationships that no longer fit who you're becoming. And often because of this, deep emotions and patterns push their way to the surface from unresolved issues in the past, sometimes in rather intense ways, and sometimes in a seemingly unrelenting way that can feel overwhelming at times. As I've said, your experience in the void is not an episode of depression in itself, but you may nonetheless experience from time to time some depression as you find your way through it. And this often has to do with all the loss you're experiencing. You're literally losing your past, certain relationships, important roles you've played, beliefs you've held for a long time that you thought were the truth, your whole sense of yourself as a person. And you may even be losing things like your home and your work and your financial stability in the bargain. There may also be a sense of purposelessness you experience and a questioning of everything you've believed in or ever wanted. And this can make it hard to just keep going at times, or even to get out of bed in the morning. Other powerful emotions may also come up in the void, like anger or even rage for a while, especially if you haven't been able to feel or fully express these kinds of emotions in the past. Some people also experience bouts of free-floating anxiety. Still others experience voids flavored with grief. Grief they were unable to fully experience in the past when important losses have occurred. Periods of shame may also occur. In general, all unfelt negative emotions that have been pushed down into the unconscious in the past when certain experiences occurred and you couldn't fully feel them will likely arise at some point in order to be finally experienced, acknowledged, and then released. Because you cannot take these low vibrational emotions with you into the fifth dimension. They need to be emptied out. There may also be a point you reach in which you are doubting all your spiritual beliefs, what you've thought you've known for sure to be true. When your faith begins to seriously waver, as you feel more and more abandoned and lost. And this can be really scary for some people. If this happens, it's helpful to know that this is an invitation for you to give up temporarily all your beliefs and see just how much truth really is in them for you. How much of it is true knowing that you have, and how much is simply belief in what someone else may have said at some point and you adopted as truth. And it's also an invitation to move even more deeply within yourself, past all belief, to experience that deep inner essence of who you are. You know, on many levels, spiritual awakening involves a process of dissolution of your identification with the ego. That's essentially what it is. And at times, this can be a really painful process. As your identification with the ego evaporates, you may begin finding that you're no longer able to be fed by the people and activities that used to define your very existence as the ego. You see that other people and interesting activities can make your life more fulfilling, but they can't ultimately fill that sense of the proverbial empty hole within you. And it's within all of us. You're ultimately faced with having to find your true nurturance from within yourself, which can only be given by the soul, your true identity. And this is the ultimate opportunity the Ascension Void can give you to truly find this deeper essence of who you are. But none of this is easy to experience. So how can you best go through this challenging part of your ascension journey? You may initially feel a sense of fear or even terror when you first find yourself in this experience of a void. And this is understandable, as we've seen, as it involves a huge change. It often presents many losses. So the first key can bring some relief. And this is to decide to just surrender to what's happening. In the end, you can't fight it. So you might as well just give up fighting and resisting it and just stop trying to change what's happening. And also to stop believing that something is wrong with you and that you need to fix it. Instead, see if you can accept this as a necessary experience on your journey. Trust the process as it unfolds and begin flowing with it the best that you can. Begin trusting that you're being guided in a very intentional and meticulous way because you are. This is the soul calling you home. In fact, if you can, see if you can even take it a step further by trying something that teacher Matt Kahn has coined, a really great little phrase, Whatever arises, love that. This is an important reminder for anyone in any stage of awakening they're in, but it's essential when you find yourself in a stage of dissolution of ego identification, like the void. Only through acceptance and love for everything that arises within you can you learn to fully step free of all your third-dimensional conditioning and despair. You know, allowing yourself to simply be who you are can be so freeing. You may know this if you've done this from time to time. It can actually be a great relief once you realize that you can just stop trying to be something you think you should be. And you stop trying to continually improve yourself. You can stop defending those images of yourself that aren't really real. You can stop trying to present yourself to others differently from who you actually are. You can just be who you are with all your quirks and weirdnesses you've maybe considered as flaws and weaknesses, and just let it all be okay. Let it all hang out. And screw anyone who's not okay with you as you really are. If they can't accept you like this, they were never your friends to begin with. There can be such freedom and joy that can arise in doing this when you're totally allowing yourself to just be who you are without any self-questioning or self-doubt. So, another key for moving through the void with relative ease is to remember to stay in the moment. You can do this. You'll find that everything really is okay in each moment. You really are fine. It's only when you start thinking about the future and move into worry and fear about what might happen if you have no idea where you're going, or when you start going over the past and begin feeling regret about what you did or what didn't happen in the way you wish it had, that it can start to feel uncomfortable or unbearable to feel like so little is happening in your life. If you can stay present with yourself in the moment, no matter what's happening in your life can actually be pleasurable in all its little moments. You start noticing small things that are beautiful and delightful that you never noticed before. You experience your body's small pleasures more fully. And very importantly, it's only in the present moment that your true self can show up in, when it doesn't have the filter of your mind hiding it from you, when you're totally present in the now. Another approach you can take that can bring some real relief is to watch carefully as you become aware of all that you're losing, because you may find also that something new is emerging at the same time. There may be a brief period of emptiness in which an old relationship or an old belief or an old sense of yourself is gone, and there's nothing there yet that's moved in to take its place. But if you're patient, you'll begin seeing that something new is actually coming present in your life. It might be something better to replace what you've lost. Or it could be a newfound sense of freedom. Or maybe an opportunity to walk in a completely new and exciting direction in your life. Whatever it is, it will be something that couldn't have happened until you let go of that thing you've lost. So watch for this dynamic, that as loss occurs, a new opening also occurs. As old third-dimensional energies leave, new fifth-dimensional energies find their way in and bring new, pleasant surprises to you. Yet another thing to remember that helps is that voids always do end. They don't last forever. They can go on for quite a while for some people, but in general they last just long enough for a certain amount of transformation to take place. It is different for everyone. And it may even be that there will be a number of voids that occur on your path of varying length and intensity. They may come and go. But know that each one does become easier to handle simply because you get to know the territory. You just learn to shift gears in your life when one starts occurring again. And you slow down and let the energies do their thing with you. However, if at any point things get too rough for you, I really encourage you to seek help from someone who understands the ascension process, someone who can give you support and help you through this challenging passage of your journey. For some people, this can be pretty rocky, and if you can find someone who can help you, it can just make it so much easier to share what it is that's going on. But either way, with or without help, just keep in mind that at some point you will begin experiencing the feeling of the void just disappearing around you. A new life will be opening up for you, and you will discover a new you emerging, ready to walk into this new life. You may find that there's less of the you that you've always known to be you. Somewhere along the way, emotional and mental baggage has just fallen away, and there's less mind chatter happening. There will be maybe a sense you could describe as being newly born, fresh, and with little outer covering or protection because there's no need for it anymore. You may even experience a refreshing sense of childlike curiosity about the world and a profound wonder at its beauty. But do be careful to not try rushing yourself toward this experience of rebirth. Allow it to take the time that is needed to prepare you for it. Trust and embrace the process. After all, you are being cleansed and purified for your eventual merging with your higher self. And you'll want to be totally ready for this exquisite experience. So if you can keep all of this in mind, although your journey through the void may be challenging at times, it can actually also be a deeply fulfilling time. In fact, if you can remember that you're in the middle of an extraordinary birth process, it can actually be an experience of joy and self-discovery and anticipation. Meanwhile, I send you much love and many blessings as you continue forward into higher and higher consciousness through the process of the Ascension Void. Many blessings.